having a look around to see what's going on Twitter and what's going on the journal while they're watching TV. And some of these people actually share their own stories and photos with us as well, which is fantastic. So we kind of thought about how we would maximize these demographics, and we designed products with them in mind. So for the morning commuter, we designed specifically the 9 at 9, which is usually our most viewed story of the day, especially on the website, actually. It's more popular on the website than on the phone. The daily poll, which allows people to vote, and people seem to love pushing buttons. That's been my big discovery of my year at the journal. So the daily poll always gets a lot of traffic because people do like to come on and have a say and vote and comment. The product that we designed for the Office browser is the Take 5. It's like a roundup of the 5 sort of top stories that you get, and you can check it out before you leave the office for the day. And then we've got the smartphone iPad for leisure user. We give them the Daily Fix, which is an 8 p.m. roundup of stories. So we're constantly looking at where our traffic is coming from and thinking, okay, well, people want news at this time. Is there a product that we can design to capture their interest? And so far, those products have been very successful. So how has the strategy worked for us? This is kind of a really highly technical graph of our first year, not at all technical. But basically what we found is that while the trajectory over the first year has been one of steady growth, there have been occasional massive spikes in our traffic. And the first one of those happened in September when we were 2 weeks old, and we got wind of the news on Twitter that Conor Lenihan, the science minister, was going to launch a book debunking evolution. If you think about that for a minute. So we thought it was kind of funny, and so did Dara O'Brien, the comedian, who thought it was so funny that he retweeted the journal's story to his 444,000 followers and promptly crashed the site. Which wasn't actually the last time he's crashed the site, by the way, but you know, we still like him. We haven't blocked him yet, anyway. But not before we managed to hit an incredible, for us, 13,000 page views. And I'll just go on to the next slide. This will show you in a little bit more detail the page views that these have been each of our spikes over the year. There was another one in November, just right before the Garda speed cameras. There was a story about some of you may have heard the story about the Cork radio presenter called Neil Prendeville. I didn't include it in the presentation because I didn't want to lower the tone, but that got 50,000 page views for us, which was phenomenal just a month later. That we ran a story about the new Garda speed cameras, and we put them all on a map and stuck it up on the site, and it got 64,000 hits. So the other big news, the other big spikes for us over the year are fairly predictable. There was Budget Day, election weekend, and the disasters in Japan. And a footballer called Darren Gibson going off in a strop and cancelling his Twitter account after only a few hours. And inexplicably to me, that was like our biggest story of the year. So that's my swan song, really, the journal, to my joy. So that's been what the first year traffic has looked like. Now, of course, it isn't a straightforward upward trajectory. And in fact, after every story, this is kind of what it looked like. Like we would get a huge spike in traffic and then a huge collapse the following day. But we found that every time that happened, a few more readers stayed with us. So every time we were plateauing out after a big spike, we were holding on to a few of those key readers. So we realized actually that that's quite a good way for us to drive traffic, is to be spike driven and come back the following day. Well, we smashed through 4 months. We've had, it's not up there, but we've had 55,000 iPhone apps downloaded since December. Over 50,000 Facebook fans. In fact, I think it was 53,000 when I was leaving the office earlier. And more than 15,000 followers on Twitter. And so from here, I suppose the next stage is to turn the attention to the sports and the entertainment publications, the Score.ie and the Daily Edge. And we're also beginning to see the beginnings of commercial success. We ran our first advertising campaign there in March. So that's kind of where it is, where the journal is now. Next, some of you may have heard, because I've written about it and I've tweeted about it, that I'm stepping down from my role as editor of the journal. And I suppose essentially just the demands of a 24/7 news site became incompatible, as I suspected on the beach. Was I going to be able to juggle it? And I found that I didn't really juggle it as successfully as I had hoped. So I will be staying involved with the journal and with other media sites in a more freelance, less time-intensive capacity. And Susan Daly will be taking over as editor of the journal. She's starting on Tuesday, and she's been with us since the beginning of January as deputy editor. And you'll still be able to keep an eye on me if you're so desire. You can keep an eye on me on the Sunday Business Post, at my blog, and on my Twitter page as well. And hopefully, oh, that's it. Okay. Hopefully, I was going to go back to my first slide of the beach and say that hopefully I will have a little bit more time for that. So thank you all for listening, and thank you also